Hi, Patrice. So tell us a bit about how you got started in health coaching and nutrition, and how have you grown as a health consultant?
So, nutrition and health has been pretty much lifelong for me. I actually was interested even in high school in cooking and food and exercise, and I ended up going to school. I got a degree in physical education. I probably should have switched to nutrition back then, but I just kind of finished thinking that that degree would be a fairly flexible one and that would allow me to work in the health and fitness area. So I did some substitute teaching, but mostly I ended up becoming a mom. So I have 4 children. I am married to a professional baseball coach, and we did a lot of traveling. And so for the most part of it, my oldest is 23. I have been a stay-at-home mom who's done a lot of cooking. Um, but in my family, we also have a lot of food allergies, a lot of autoimmune conditions in my whole side of the family, with my siblings, with my older relatives. And so all of those issues set me on a path to start studying a long time ago, studying more about nutrition, more about allergies, wanting to find out what was going on with myself, how to be healthier myself, and to help other people. So before I ever even got any official education or training, I was studying and I was getting a lot of experience in the kitchen. I was making recipes that I could eat that were dairy free and egg free and soy free, and learning all about that. I have a couple sisters that are allergic to gluten. So it started with that, and then when I started learning more about autoimmunity, then I really is when I got interested in functional medicine. And functional medicine is all about getting to root causes of disease, figuring out how you got to where you are. And I just wanted to know more about why the food allergies, why the sensitivities, and I started following a lot of functional medicine doctors back then. And eventually, as my kids got older and I started thinking, what am I going to do with all of this information? And it became apparent, like, you really should help other people. I have a lot of knowledge. So I did a 1-year program at Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and I got certified to be an integrative nutrition health coach. And that was great. It was really great basic education, not only on a lot of the underlying nutrition information, but how to be a coach and how to coach. And then, was slowly starting my business off that way, but I knew that there was just still a whole lot more. I've always known functional medicine was the direction for me. And so I recently signed up and just completed a semester at School of Applied Functional Medicine. And that is a program for practitioners from all walks of life, but it teaches you how to apply the functional medicine to your health coaching or to whatever modality you're practicing. So there's doctors, there's nurses, there's all kinds of people. But in my case, how to apply the functional medicine to my health coaching so that I can help people to get to root causes, so I could learn more and more about how to address root causes, about the scientific part, the lab work. So it's just been fascinating. It's absolutely amazing. I can't believe how much I've learned. I'm currently working on studying for the certification. So once I'm certified, I can call myself a functional medicine health coach. And then I can go on to study a couple more semesters, which I'm really excited to do.
Wow, what's the difference between like a regular health coach and a functional health coach?
So a regular health coach there's just a whole range of education that person could have had. It could be a couple month program they took. And it could have been like there are a lot of graduates from Institute for Integrative Nutrition, which is a really great program and really sets you up well to be able to, help people with diet and lifestyle changes. The functional medicine is really sets you apart because we are learning about all of the root causes, how to puzzle piece and figure out, how did someone get to where they were, and much more knowledge about we can recommend supplements, we can help review lab work and teach our clients about how to find optimal values, not just wait until they're diagnosable. So conventional medicine basically seeks to diagnose disease. They wait until they can call you hypothyroid or until they can call you diabetic until they're willing to treat. Whereas functional medicine seeks to help you before you ever get to a diagnosable disease. So we look for optimum values. So we learn that. We learn how to review lab work and then educate our clients on how to advocate for themselves with their doctor, or what kind of supplements they might need based on, the nutritional numbers that come back. So it's just a whole lot more of applying science and applying the background knowledge to puzzle piece and figure out how that unique person got to where they.
So a senior could see you and they can see their doctor at the same time, and that would be okay?
Of course, and that would be desired because I'm not a doctor. I don't diagnose, I don't prescribe medication. I'm not there to try to take the place of your doctor. I'm really there to be a complement. I'm there to help you with lifestyle change, diet change, and the regular kind of meetings that you have. Your doctor doesn't have time for that. They can't meet with you every 2 weeks and speak to you for an hour.
That's
They're not
true.
going to they're probably not going to email you in between, and you're not going to be able to ask questions like, what was that, what coconut oil should I. So it's meant to be complementary towards any and all practitioners that you have. And it's really the future of medicine. Doctors should have health coaches working in their office. People need that extra attention. They need someone to educate and inspire them so they understand why they're making the changes and they can get the feedback regularly. So it really is a partnership, and something that I will have to grow over time, working with practitioners and finding practitioners that are sort of like-minded, because it's easier that way. But I can work with anybody. I'm not there to tell them not to take a medication or tell them not to do it. They're just to educate. I educate and inspire, and then they're in charge of their health. They go back to their doctor and they advocate for themselves if I've done my job right and educated.
So a senior, let's say a senior has like arthritis, like a generalized arthritis, and they would come to you. What kind of recommendations would you give if I'm like 72 and I'm full of arthritis and it's a little
Right.
painful to get up in the morning? I have to warm up for like half
Mhm.
hour before I feel
Right.
a little better. I'm taking anti-inflammatories.
Yep.
Uh, what would you offer to a person like that?
Well, you said the magic word in anti-inflammatory, because if you have arthritis, what you have going on is a lot of inflammation in your body. And so taking things that are anti-inflammatory can definitely help, but also this is where functional medicine comes in, puzzle piecing the root causes of how you got inflamed in the first place. And a lot of what in functional medicine, disease begins in the gut. And a lot of people don't realize the connection between not only what they put in their mouth and on their bodies and around their bodies, but what's going on in your gut, in your microbiome, and whether or not you are using the food properly. Like, you aren't just what you eat. That's the old saying. You are what you eat, digest, absorb, and actually get into your cells to use. And there's a lot of things in this modern day and age that can get in the way of that. Digestive problems because we take too many antibiotics and we take too many pain medications and we put too many things in. Maybe you have a food sensitivity that's causing you to have inflammation in your gut. And that inflammation is no longer staying in your gut. There are things passing into your bloodstream, and your immune system's reacting to it every day. And that's why you're inflamed. I've had arthritis myself. The autoimmune that I suffered from is psoriasis. And so for years, I was trying all sorts of, things, cutting out the foods and doing everything I knew, but I still had some of the arthritis that came with that. And so I did lots of extensive research into anti-inflammatories, and I did an autoimmune protocol. I actually ended up taking a supplement, which I'm a distributor for, that lowers inflammation in your body. But there are a lot of things out there, natural products that you can take. But it also has to do with removing the triggers that are causing that inflammation in the first place. And inflammation is not just towards arthritis. Inflammation is basically involved in every chronic disease.
So a lot of the arthritis we have is diet related, would you say?
Yeah, for a lot of people, because of our food supply and because of what's wrong with our digestion, that maybe, people didn't used to have the issues that we have. We have, in the senior population, especially low stomach acid, and some of it is just because you could be hypothyroid, and that could cause you to have low stomach acid. But a lot of people are being prescribed these proton pump inhibitors because they are being told that they have GERD or acid reflux because they have too much stomach acid, when in reality, they probably don't have enough stomach acid. That's part, once you get into the age of 50 and over, it's common to have lower stomach acid. And so you're not going to digest your proteins well, and you're not going to separate your minerals. You may be low on something like B12 because you don't have enough stomach acid. So there's a lot going on with digestion. Hydrochloric acid, you have pancreatic enzymes that help you digest, you have bile coming from the liver. A lot of people have gallbladder issues. Those are all upstream causes, that reasons why you might not be digesting well and why your gut might not be as in good a shape as you'd like it to be, and then that's going to result in inflammation.
Wow. How about something like obesity? That seems to be a really big problem. The older we get, it seems like we have less muscle and more fat.
Yeah.
It just seems to be a consequence of getting older.
Yeah.
So seniors tend to be a little bit, their BMI seems to start rising.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Certainly it is diet and exercise. That's,
Mm-hmm.
duh.
Yeah.
But what would you offer as a health coach in terms of seniors that are finding themselves a little bit overweight? They're exercising, but they still kind of have that stubborn little pouch, or they're, the chicken wings.
Yeah. So again, that's where you get to bring the functional medicine in, which makes it so awesome, because you're going to puzzle piece and figure out why are you having trouble losing weight despite maybe you're already exercising and trying to put healthy foods in, and there can be a lot of reasons. So thyroid, less than optimal thyroid levels are super, super common, especially as we get older. And there are things that can interfere with your thyroid production, and that is going to make everything in your body sluggish, including your metabolism. You can have gut issues. So people that are overweight have different gut populations that people that are not overweight. And so you can work on getting your gut population balanced. You can have testing done to figure out what's going on in your gut, especially if you have digestive symptoms. But there's a lot there, and whether or not you are digesting and absorbing the nutrients that your body needs to do all of its work, including cellular metabolism. And then there's toxicity, which is something probably our grandparents didn't have to deal with. They weren't exposed to what we are exposed to on a daily basis. And our body is, meant to detoxify, and we have detoxifying systems, but sometimes they're just overwhelmed, especially if you are putting in a lot that is toxic that your body has to get rid of, or if you are exposed to a lot of things, and also just our individual susceptibility. So I'm extremely sensitive to chemicals. I have to be careful about what I'm around, but toxicity can affect whether or not your fat cells are your fat cells are trying to protect you from the toxins that are floating around. And so they don't want to release the toxins all at once. That would be harmful. And then hormones is another reason, and hormones that would be tied in with the thyroid, because all your hormones are connected. But if your hormones are out of balance, it can make it incredibly difficult to lose weight. So you might be feeling like you're doing everything you can, but with functional medicine, we can puzzle piece and figure out if there's some missing pieces or some things that are out of balance that would then make it easier. And if you have less inflammation, you're probably more likely to go out and do some of those exercises if it's not painful. So it's always the whole person. No matter what you're addressing, it's always the whole person, because you can't separate the body into parts. None of it's separate. Everything's connected. And so you treat the whole person. And when you look for root causes, it treats the whole body. It doesn't just treat one thing, one symptom.
Well, what are like three things I could do? Let's say I'm overweight, I'm 72. I'm probably maybe 20 pounds overweight or more. What are some simple steps I could do to take action?
Right. So from like a nutritional standpoint, I think starting with just eating nutrient dense, so meaning eating real foods, not processed packaged things that are kind of masquerading as foods, but real foods with real dense nutrition. And in the process of doing that, you're cutting out a lot of the high glycemic foods, the things that raise your blood sugar, because insulin resistance is what is leading to the diabetes and leading to the weight gain, your blood sugar being too high. So if you eat a lower glycemic diet, and your blood sugar levels are constant, not only are you going to feel better and have less inflammation, but you're going to lose weight. I did that myself. When I turned 40 years old, I knew I had kind of a blood sugar issue going on, and I had done a lot of studying already. So I put myself on a low sugar diet, wanting to have more energy and wanting to be able to take off a few pounds. And it was amazing for me how quickly that happened, that just getting the sugar and the carbs, especially the empty ones, out of your diet can help. But for everybody, that might, if that's not an instant fix, to cut down carbs in your life is not an instant fix, then you would go and puzzle piece and figure out what's going on, the support that person needs. So eating nutrient dense would be a big one. I think for not only seniors, probably everybody, but just some sort of strength type exercise. So maybe your whole life you've been taught like that you just need to get on the treadmill for an hour and a half or something. And, not that going for walks, all of those things are good, but a little bit of, building muscle is going to burn more calories and burn calories for longer. So there's like a 48 hours after you do a strength type intense exercise where you have this afterburn, whereas going for, an hour run on the treadmill is not going to do the same thing. So, and having more muscle means you're going to burn more fat all the time. And it just, I think, would make you a more functional senior. You'd have better strength, better stability, better, you just would have a healthier body that's able to live your life every day and not feel exhausted. So I think some strength training, and that would have to be tailored obviously for the individual person. And then, okay, so the top three would be stress relief. Stress would probably have to come in the top three, because stress does amazing, incredible things. You could be doing everything else right, and if you can't get rid of all stress, but if you can't find a way to be managing stress, the rest of the work that you're doing might not work very well. Stress affects your adrenals and affects your thyroid. It's going to affect your hormone balance. It's going to affect your gut. And it's going to probably affect everything in your life. So finding ways to reduce stress, and there are physiological sources of stress, such as maybe you have, a bad infection or something that's causing stress in your body, but there's also all the psychological and the busy lives that we live, and finding ways to prioritize some time every day for whatever works for you. It might be meditation, it might be a walk in nature, it might be spending time with a pet, who knows, but there's some prioritizing stress relief and some quiet time and getting enough sleep so that you're at your best every day. So stress is a huge one.
Yeah, well, that actually kind of nicely ties into my next question, which was about, diabetes. They seem to be really related, kind of obesity and diabetes,
Yeah.
um, seem to be related in terms of the more obese you are, the greater the tendency would be to be diabetic. So, what are some suggestions, kind of like we did on the obesity, about as we get older, our blood sugars are a little higher, a little harder to control, probably diet related too, I imagine. What are your recommendations on patients who are, their A1s are probably a little high, they're maybe pre-diabetic, or they might have type 2 diabetes? There's a lot of seniors have type 2 diabetes.
Yeah. Again, the difference between conventional and functional medicine is, in conventional medicine, they wait until your blood sugars get out of range and they can diagnose you as diabetic, and then they say, now we'll treat you. Functional medicine is going to look at those HbA1c numbers, your blood sugar, your fasting insulin. They're going to look at all those things, and when they start trending up, they're going to help you to get those numbers down before you ever get to being diagnosed as diabetic. But if you're already in that, you've been diagnosed, you can reverse diabetes. You won't be told that in your conventional office, but you have to be willing to do the work. And so that would involve, again, a low glycemic diet. It would be cutting out all of the empty carbohydrates, the things that just spike your blood sugar up really, really quick and then end up with, blood sugar dives. But there are other things you can do nutritionally, making sure when you have a meal that you have adequate protein, plenty of good fat, fiber. All of those things slow down the good sugars that you're eating into your bloodstream. I find that many of the senior population, they've spent a good portion of their adult life being told that they should watch how much fat they consume. Even things healthy like avocados and nuts, be careful not to eat too much of that. It's very high calorie food, which is just, it's crazy. Your body needs fat, and it needs good fat. Every cell in your body has a lipid layer, and whether that cell is healthy or not depends on whether you are putting in good fats or bad fats. So the good fats would be like the avocados and the nuts and the olive oil and the cod liver oil, the omega-3s. The bad fats would be the things that are in all that packaged processed food that we think is so convenient. Hydrogenated oils that we don't want to be putting in our body, rancid or oxidized oils. So seniors especially need to hear the message, because they've heard many. There was a time when they were telling people to eat margarine, that was supposed to be healthier than butter, and it's terrible. So they need to hear the message over and over that fat is good. Eat fat. It won't make you fat. You could eat those good fats all day long, and it won't raise your blood sugar, and it won't make you fat. It's the sugar and the empty carbs that are making people insulin resistant and then leading to obesity and diabetes. So nutritionally, and then for exercise, that's what you guys focus on. Those higher intensity exercises that we were talking about earlier are going to manage your blood sugar levels a lot better than going for a really, really long run. So I switched from being a distance runner most of my life to, when I got to that 40-year-old and I realized I had to make some changes, I started doing sprints instead of distance running. So it might be like 10 high intensity sprints out in the street instead of going for a long run. And what that did is it changes the hormones being released in your body, and you then have that 48-hour afterburn I was talking about, that much better control of your blood sugar by adding it in gradually, depending on what your fitness level is, adding in anything that feels intense. So it might even be what do we call those? Standing extensions. It might just be a really simple exercise, anything that gets your heart rate up for a short period of time, and then you bring it back down and you rest. And it's kind of that interval or HIIT training. That type of exercise is going to help with the blood sugar control, and you would slowly add in more intense, depending on your fitness level.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in high intensity training, even if you
Sure.
just have it as a component of your regular exercise.
Yeah.
For me, it just does something magical to my body, because there are times when I can run around the track and spend an hour just running, and but it doesn't affect me as much as, or it doesn't give me the kind of the reserves that just doing, maybe, as you say, 10 sprints in a row.
Yeah.
It's a whole different type of exercise, and I really just feel it in my lungs. I feel it in my endurance. I just feel better about doing things when I have that kind of basis of high intensity. So I agree
Yeah.
with that one.
When you study about it, you learn that, like, what the catecholamines and the things that are released by your body when you do that intense exercise, and that is what's creating that afterburn. But it's also, I think, creating that feeling, that the human growth hormone and all the things that you want to happen when you do the short bursts of intense. And I also remember when I was learning about it that someone compared, compare if you're watching the Olympics and there's a sprinter, compare the body type of a sprinter to the people that run the really, really long distance runs, and look what their bodies look like. And the sprinters, who maybe only have to run for 10 seconds, but they run really, really hard, they are muscular. They look really, really good. Their muscles, they look really healthy, whereas the long distance runners tend to be very, very slim and sometimes not look like, they have very much muscle. It tends to be more wear and tear on the body. Whereas like the sprinter just looks like they've got everything going right with what they're, that 10-second sprint that they do, however many times they train. But it just gives you a visual as to what the two different exercises are creating in your body. And so if that's what you're looking for, and not that you have to do it every day, you can mix it up. You could have days where you go for a longer run and you don't need to do intense exercise every day to get the benefits. You could do it twice a week. And burpees, I don't know if you guys do, burpees is an example of like you could be in a hotel room and do burpees until you can't breathe anymore. And even if you did a couple sets of that, it sets you up for the whole day for that release of hormones, the catecholamines, and the fat burning. So can be life changing.
Yeah, I've done, you probably heard it's called Tabata,
Mm-hmm.
which is 20 seconds of intense exercise and then a 10-second rest and then repeat
Right.
for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So you do 20 seconds of intense like burpees, then you rest for
Yeah.
10 seconds, then another set of 20 seconds of burpees. And that's pretty tiring and it's pretty
It's
amazing what it
tiring.
does to your body.
It is. I've tried to do to see how long I could do burpees before I had to stop before, and it is a tough example of just a tough. You don't need weights. You don't need any equipment. You can do it in your living room in front of your TV, and it doesn't have to take a good portion of your day. It could be a very short portion of your day, and you get really great benefits from it.
Absolutely. And I've modified it because I have bad knees. I
Mm-hmm.
use a chair and I just, instead of going all the way down to the ground, I'll just hold on to the seat of a chair and bring my legs out and in and then do the regular
Right.
burpee. But, as you get older, you got to modify things.
Sure, for sure. And that's where you guys come in because you have to be aware, you have to modify. You don't want to be doing something that's hurting your body. And there are plenty of other things that can be done besides burpees. That's just an example of like a simple full body exercise that requires nothing else besides you and maybe a pair of tennis shoes, um, and can get your heart rate up and can affect your blood sugar and affect all of the hormones in your body. Pretty simple. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to go to a gym. You don't have to even have an exercise video to do that. So yeah, I like examples like that. And when I work out myself, I go out on the sidewalk and do walking lunges down the sidewalk until I can't do them anymore. And I do like one set of those. And I do maybe a set of push-ups. And I'm a volleyball player, so I'll do block jumps in front of my TV where I just, jump up 20 times. And it can be really, really simple. And it can be a short 10-minute workout that works into my day. And it makes me feel fantastic in the long run. And I don't do that every day. That would be maybe once or twice a week. And in the meantime, in between days, I tend to do yoga because that's a great anti-aging exercise that just keeps you really balanced and flexible and helps with the whole mind body connection where that's the stress relief and that's the becoming really aware of what's going on with your body. So I think as we get older, it's about working out much smarter, not harder, not longer, but just smarter. What works and what makes me feel fantastic for the rest of the time.
Excellent. Yeah. How about if I'm a senior and my doctor says, "Well, we want to watch your heart. We know your lipids are a little bit high." So, kind of heart health. What kind of tips can you give about a senior whose doctor says, take care of your heart, eat a good diet? Any specific ideas you would have for like a cardiac patient who's not doesn't have a bad cardiac problem, but the doctor just says, maybe eat a good diet for your heart.
Right. Yeah, I actually was talking to a client earlier today, and she has heart disease. She's on about different medications and has dealing with this for a long time. So I've been doing a lot of research. I read a book called Heart Solution for Women. I can't remember what the author's name is. It might be Menelcino, something like that. He's been in this business for a really long time, and he helps women reverse heart disease, particularly women by using lifestyle, diet, supplements, and by paying attention to what really matters. And so he's got, I think, chapter 2 is actually talking about LDL cholesterol, the fact that having high LDL cholesterol doesn't necessarily mean that you're at high risk for heart disease. I've learned in my own studies at School of Applied Functional Medicine that there are other measures that are far more, you should be looking at. There are measures of inflammation like homocysteine and C-reactive protein. You should be looking at, say, your triglyceride levels compared to your HDL levels. And they have much better testing they can do. There's one that's called an NMR profile where they test like the number of small particles of LDL. So it's not just whether or not your LDL is high, it's whether you have many other risk factors. And inflammation is actually a much bigger risk for cardiac disease than high cholesterol. In fact, there are many, many quotes saying that people that go into the emergency room having a heart attack, only something like 50% of them actually have high LDL cholesterol. It is just not the predicting number that you may have been led to believe in. And don't let them just put you on a statin without doing all of that other testing to figure out whether, because that's not even very effective for most people. So diet and lifestyle change is far more effective. Putting you on a statin may lower your LDL, but it will not decrease your risk for heart disease, and it will not get to the root causes of how you got there in the first place. So again, all the things we've been talking about today, the insulin resistance, the inflammation, the balance of hormone, the thyroid and the adrenals, all of those are going to be at play. And those are the root causes. Those are the things that you look at. And when you get all the lifestyle interventions in place, you will not be at risk for cardiovascular disease when you balance out, it's just, I love having these are functional medicine doctors. Dr. Mark Hyman was another one. I had pulled out an article and he had one, and I think it was titled like why cholesterol is probably not bad for you. So there are a lot of resources out there from functional medicine doctors who will educate you as to these are the kind of tests that you should have. These that you should be looking to lower your inflammation and your insulin resistance, get your blood sugar under control. And if your thyroid's working properly, you probably won't have high LDL cholesterol. And when you take care of all those root causes, then yeah, you are already doing all the things you need to do to lower your risk for cardiovascular disease.
Wow. Yeah. So it's like an inflammation problem then almost.
It is. Inflammation is in functional medicine. Inflammation is down there as the roots, as the cause. You have all these diseases that you can give names to, but if you take care of inflammation, it takes care of all these diseases. So it might be arthritis, all the chronic things, which are the things that conventional medicine struggles to deal with because they're trying to treat symptoms instead of treating root cause. The question you should ask is, why am I inflamed? And that's where we have to do the digging and figuring out, do you have food sensitivities? Do you have mercury toxicity? Do you have dysbiosis in your gut? You took too many antibiotics over the course of your life and didn't take probiotics, or you didn't fix up your gut. So there's some reason why you're inflamed. And once you can remove the sources of inflammation, then those diseases that have names will be taken care of. They will go away because inflammation is really what is at the root and what you need to figure out the why.
Boy, that darn inflammation, huh?
Yeah, it's a tough one, especially as you get older,
Yeah.
for sure.
How about I find myself getting, not me personally, but seniors can get forgetful and they start worrying about their brain health because it is an organ. And, uh, foods that I could have that would maybe improve my memory or make me a little less forgetful because that seems to be a big problem when you get older
Yeah.
is forgetting things, not being focused, forgetting your car keys, or if you're like me, you leave your car running and go into the bank and come out and say, "Where are my car keys?" "Oh, they're in the car," and the car's running, which I did the other day.
Oh, yeah. I know. I've been there before. I went to pump gas one time and couldn't remember my zip. you have to put in with your credit card. And I thought, what is wrong with my brain? And it's one of those, senior moments where you think that's a little scary. But yeah, so again, we're going to bring the conversation back to inflammation and to your gut. Your brain has a direct connection with your gut. There's a vagus nerve and most of the connection actually between your brain and your gut actually goes from your gut to your brain and not the other way around. So your gut health is incredibly important for your brain health. I don't know if you know that 95% of your serotonin is made in your gut. It is not made in your brain. And there are other neurotransmitters as well. So having a healthy gut means you are going to have the proper amount of neurotransmitters. Serotonin is always a great example because it's in charge of so many things, mood issues, brain, sleep, but it also like food cravings. And so there's a lot, you want your gut to be healthy and you want your serotonin production to be working. And that, in that case, you have to work on your gut. You have to work on, is your digestion working properly? Because we can go back to that low stomach acid. If you have low stomach acid, then you are not separating your amino acids from your minerals properly. And guess you need amino acids to make neurotransmitters. So there are amino acids that you take as sort of a short term, to supplement if you're having certain brain symptoms. And there are things you can take that are precursors to serotonin, so you can make more serotonin while you're working on all the root causes of how you got there in the first place. And then the other thing about the brain, especially for seniors, because people are afraid of Alzheimer's, and often you hear that these days people are wanting to call it type 3 diabetes, Alzheimer's, type 3 diabetes. So again, what happens in other parts of your body is not separate from your brain. And you can have kind of a leaky barrier to your brain. So having inflammation in the rest of your body can then cause you to have issues, inflammation in your brain, have, some of those neurotransmitter imbalances. But the type 3 diabetes thing as well is going to be having that high blood sugar all the time, causing inflammation, is then going to have an effect on your brain. And then, there's lots and lots of research as to when those amyloid plaques in your brain form, and, how sleeping better is one of the things you can do. That's when those plaques are cleared. And so there's a lot you can do, but it's really going to come down to the same as for everything else, that you can't separate your brain from the rest of your body. So you're working on eating well. Exercise is important for your brain. Gut health is incredibly important for your brain. And so again, it would go back to lowering inflammation, lowering blood sugar, making sure you're eating well, and that your gut is balanced for your brain.
Wow. And speaking of brain, how about sleep patterns? I noticed that a lot of times either maybe it's something I ate, but insomnia, hard to get to sleep. The worst is waking up at night and then not falling back to sleep again, which I find is the worst stuff. Any recommendations in terms of, because you spend half your life sleeping, it seems like, so it should be restful.
Sleep is actually one of those rapid relief things we are taught at School of Applied Functional Medicine. It's so important to sleep well. That's when you do your resting, you're regenerating, and you could be doing everything else right with your food and your exercise, but if you're not sleeping well, that's going to really affect how you function. So we puzzle piece and figure out what that's, how the bad sleep, what it looks like. So it'd be different for somebody who can't fall asleep. They might need something like melatonin, but there are other things to it, relaxing, calming things that they can do before bed. But a lot of people are having the problem where they wake up in the middle of the night, and that's a lack of melatonin going on in the middle of the night. So if you take melatonin before bed, it's not going to help you stay asleep. But then you can take things like 5-HTP is an example of something which is a precursor to serotonin, which will be made into melatonin later on. And that can help. Things like that can help you to stay asleep in the middle of the night. But again, that's rapid relief. And so you would start with that, but also be working on root causes of why are you waking up? Is it a stress and a cortisol issue? Are you eating something that you're sensitive to, which would raise your cortisol and could have, or you might have low blood sugar in the middle of the night. So there's a lot of reasons for why you could be waking up, and we have to puzzle piece and figure out why you're waking up. Are you waking up at 4 a.m. and can't go back to sleep, or are you waking up at 2? And yeah, so there's just different reasons, different puzzle piecing. Everybody's different, but there are lots of things you can puzzle piece and put together. And yeah, it's super important to get you sleeping well. Really, it's one of the first things that we would work on, because that's how important sleep is.
Yeah, especially for regenerating and recuperating. If you're exercising, it's very
Uh,
important just to rest, because when you get older, resting is one of the best things you can do because
yeah,
it takes you longer to recuperate than when you were,
yeah,
25.
for sure. Yeah, I agree. And I'm very protective about my sleep. I make sure I put myself to bed on time. I make sure yeah, if I go play in a volleyball tournament or something that kind of did a number on my body, then I make sure I get a really good, sleep. I sleep as late as I want the next day or something, to get that regeneration. And sleeping and dreaming, all of that is important. There's tons of research into, how important all of that is. So yeah, if you're not sleeping well, it's definitely, and when you work on all those other root causes, sleep tends to get better. So I know I experienced that myself. I have 4 children, and I don't think I ever slept through the night, and I wasn't used to sleeping through the night. And when I did change my diet and get, lower my blood sugar and kind of regain my energy, I can remember the first time I slept through the night 8 hours and woke up and I just thought, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Didn't know what that was like. And that I want everybody to experience that. We're all going to have nights where we might wake up or, don't have the best night's sleep, but on a regular basis, that we all should be sleeping well. If we're not, then there's a reason, and we want to find out why.
Wow, that's great advice. Yeah. So I'll wrap it up by asking one more question related to just sleeping. So, in terms of energy level, it seems to be we get a lot of seniors, they're like, I just have no energy. Some days I'll have energy, and some days I have like no energy. Uh, is it diet or is it sleep or hormones? Any recommendations in terms of building up some little energy as in seniors? Because it affects your motivation, it affects your sanity. You can be depressed just because you have no energy.
Right. Well, I think sleep definitely does. I mean, I know I can tell the difference between myself if I've had a good night's sleep and myself if I haven't, because I will definitely not have as much energy. But food sensitivities are one. A lot of people don't recognize that symptom as being something that just zaps your energy. So one of the symptoms of having a food sensitivity can be fatigue and brain fog and just that lack of energy. So it's possible if you're eating something that you're sensitive to, because it creates problems with your cortisol levels and eventually with your thyroid and with your hormones. So energy, when you think energy, I definitely always think thyroid. Thyroid is in charge of everything. Thyroid is like, if you have a sluggish thyroid, you have sluggish everything in your body. So when you mention hormones, so that's true. All the hormones are in a soup working together. You can't separate them out. And so there may be other hormone imbalances going on at the same time. And you can have you can have very comprehensive hormone tests done, so you can see exactly what is going on if it's a hormone issue. And then also the dietary, you do kind of elimination so that you can figure out if there's a particular food. I know if I eat if I eat something with soy in it, it will give me brain fog within 20 minutes. And peanut butter is another one. I loved peanut butter, but it's kind of a moderate food allergy for me. But as I got older, I would notice that if I ate that, I would feel really, really tired afterwards. But I would only notice that because I was on such a clean diet at the time. I had done the eliminations. I had taken a lot of things out of my diet in order to do the detective work to figure out what made me feel tired like that. And so you might find that there are certain foods. Sugar would be another one. Like if I eat too much sugar, I'm going to feel tired. So I am careful about the amounts of carbohydrates that I eat in any one sitting and what kind of carbohydrates I eat and the type of a meal I eat. Because I'll notice if I get it wrong, I will definitely feel more sluggish and tired. But you could have other things going on, gut infections, and that's where you just want a puzzle piece and figure out, lots of questions. You can do lab work and just puzzle piecing as to where you, with a food sensitivity, it could be 2 to 3 days later that you feel the fatigue. It's not the same as a food allergy. So yeah, it's a lot of puzzle piecing to figure it out. But if you're putting the right things in and kind of working on all of this diet, gut health, exercise, sleep, hopefully all of those things contribute to more energy.
Wow, this has been amazing. That's a lot of amazing information that we're just learning. I think we just covered the whole spectrum there.
Sometimes I think my head's going to explode with all what I've learned, but it's amazing, and it's really, really exciting. It's exciting because there's help out there for people who are suffering. There's reasons. That's one thing I call, my business is called Road Less Traveled, and it's called that for a reason. I've always been different than other people. I've kind of always been on a different road. I've never been one to go for the conventional medicine route because I never wanted to be medicated or had a body part taken out. I always wanted to know why. Why do I feel that way? Why this? Why am I sick? And so from an early age, I asked why, and I worked really hard at just keeping myself healthy by putting the right things in and listening to my body. And so that's why I think it's exciting, because now I have just all this information, far more tools to help somebody else to ask those questions, answers those questions, and be educated so they don't have to settle for just being medicated or just being told that your lab work is fine and you're fine and good luck, because obviously you can tell when you're not fine. And, the big thing is find out why. Why aren't, keep trying, keep puzzle piecing, and keep working. And so it is a lot of information, and sometimes it can make your head swim, but but you can also, always break it down to the basics too, of like what you're putting in, and your sleep, and your lowering inflammation and all of that.
Wow. So you're a health coach. So where can people find you?
So
How do they get in touch with you? And I'll put this in the show notes too.
yeah, I don't have a website yet. I've been very slowly starting and building up. I've been actually spending a whole lot of time studying. So I go by word of mouth. I do some health fairs and things, but you can post my email, orton.patrice@gmail.com. And so they can just, email me. You can put my phone number, 480-254-4583. And then I can communicate with them. Do they want to sign up and do an initial consultation with me so that they can see, because a lot of people don't know what a health coach does and how I work, and so they get a chance to fill out a health history, fill out a symptom questionnaire, and we do a 1 hour consultation so they get to see what it is I do and how I work. And yeah, and from there, I can give them more information about my 3-month program that I do. And then in addition to that, I'm a distributor for a supplement because it was really powerful for me and lowered inflammation in my body. So that I kind of do on the side. So that's what I do. I don't do a lot of social media. I don't have a website yet, but I'm just starting low and slow. I plan to actually enroll in another semester of school. So I'm kind of happy right now being mother of 4 and budding health coach and helping whoever's ready. Really the key is, someone who's ready. They're ready to make changes and do the puzzle piecing and meet with me regularly in order to figure out what's going on and live their best life.
Wow, that sounds great. Well, I really appreciate so much you're taking the time to come here on the Senior Fitness Radio. It's been really enlightening, certainly about all the diet.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Thanks.
All right.